Hello YouTube. Today we're gonna go over how to play my favorite opening in the basics itself, the King's Gambit. So the King's Gambit arises after e4, e5, the most common continuation in chess. White plays a move that's kind of considered quite dubious, but has been played for thousands of years and is even played with success today. Probably the most recent King's Gambit masterclass, you could say, was a game between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ali Reza Firouzja, where White won that game. So after pawn to f4, offering this pawn, you need to understand the weaknesses that come with losing your grip on this diagonal right here, and the positional changes that arise after capturing, which moves this pawn from the center, and after other moves that white can play like d5 and even d6. You should know it won't be played at the highest level, but when you learn openings, you learn them to play them for yourselves. You don't learn them to do anything else. The openings are meant to be played, not meant to be looked at, right? It's not there just because it's pretty. So it is important, I think, to learn d6, because players will play this against you. People that have never seen it before, they'll play d6 and they'll play knight c6, and you should know what to do in these sidelines. But for the first video of the King's Gambit, we'll talk about the most common continuations and the most common things that happen in games that and positions that arise out of my games, so you can understand these patterns in the position, because you don't learn openings to memorize moves. You learn openings to understand chess. So there are two main moves here, are knight f3 and bishop c4. And knight f3 is designed to block queen h4 check, and bishop c4 is designed to put the king on f1 after queen h4 check, which I prefer this move because queen h4 isn't necessarily a good move, but it's an enticing one. And it looks so good for black because white revokes his castling rights, and then black gets to threaten checkmate on the next move. And this was actually played in a game between Paul Morphy and his father, Alonzo Morphy, with Alonzo played with the black pieces, and Morphy crushed him after d4, bishop b6, and knight f3. And white just moves, gets this free center, moves all of his pieces out with tempo, and just gets a great position after queen h4 and king f1. If you want to, this is still proper. Queen h4 is technically, so after queen h4, king f1. If black is playing queen h4 to win, then they'll play knight f6, and the game will just will continue in a similar fashion such as this. You can play knight c6 here. A lot of people knight c3 here. A lot of people play d3 here to immediately open this up. It's a tiny bit inaccurate because once you push the pawn to d3, the d5 break becomes really strong for black. But you just need to be aware of these patterns of the queen coming out here and attacking you, and this bishop landing here, and also what to do if black doesn't know what they're doing. Like say you get this position. I've played this a million times where black doesn't know to play queen h6 and they just play queen g4, and you can actually take this pawn with check, and after the king recaptures, you fork the king and the queen here. And I've gotten this countless times, just free elo against players all the way up to 1800. I've had them hang this exact move order. So this is definitely worth understanding if you just get free queens from 1800s. After knight f3, it doesn't lead to such a clear path, right? There is no queen h4 obvious move. So it leaves black with a lot of options here. Black can play d5, in which you should just keep your Scandinavian ideas in mind. You should be thinking about takes and knight c3. A big reason why I lose a lot in the King's Gambit is because we'll play an opening like this, like black will play all these funny moves, and I'm like, oh well, these moves aren't book and these moves aren't right, so I shouldn't have to worry. So I just play all my moves automatically, and then boom, I hung a bishop. So you should definitely always look out for this queen e7, queen f6 to try to put this queen here and win this bishop. It's these patterns that arise. Like a lot of people, they default to certain ideas. I've seen people here just take and then bishop c4 and play c6 and d5 like automatically. Just take c6 d5, and I don't specifically know how to refute it, but I do understand the basic ideas. If you see c6, then you know that d5 is going to come. So you can probably put your bishop on b3, or you can probably just wait for it to come and then move your bishop to b3 and say sacrifice the pawn. Like let's say you wanted to just play d4 here, 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 and then I don't know, queen h5, and you wanted to play some crazy gambit line. This probably isn't completely terrible. I mean, the queen does block queen h4 check. If g6, you can go here, and things are happening. So it's definitely very flexible and very aggressive for white. There are tons of different things that can happen. Probably the most common thing to do when you play against someone that plays this d6 stuff is you get a position that is very or even if they take and they just take and play d6, then you get these positions that like I could just play all these moves automatically. Like we could keep on going, and you'll get a position where I mean d3 didn't have to be played, d4, where white just gets the center and moves his knights out and moves his bishop back, where black lets you recapture, and the position is solid, but you just have slightly more development. And in these positions like this, it's important to understand the tension of the situation, especially when you like the tension is even more obvious in the d6 lines when you play like knight f3 and knight c6 and then knight c3, f5, d3, and then here, and you get this position where all of these are, well, not exactly engine moves, but this is the engine position. That wasn't the engine move order, but those were all the engine moves. And you get a position like this where the tension is obvious. If you take, then you help black. If you take, then you help white. And all these ideas like the F file, it makes these slight differences to where, say both players all right, you have to play bishop e2, bishop e7, and castles. There are these ideas of where you can play queen e1 and reroute and take and go for this checkmate where you put the bishop here, you take, put the bishop here, and go for this mating pattern. There's all these mating patterns that can arise from different openings and from different styles of positions that can all come from e4, e5, f4, playing the King's Gambit. So whether it's, quote, dubious or it's, quote, anything that some grandmaster or somebody on the internet tells you, that don't listen to that. Listen to the board and what it tells you. The board speaks the truth about the position, no one else. So I hope you guys like that little introductory on the King's Gambit. I can go into some actual theory. I can look more into the lines of bishop c4. Tomorrow I'll probably go over the main line, knight f3, g5, defending this pawn on f4, and we'll see what some of the more sharp positions look like. But you're at lower levels, it's more or less likely to get these sharp positions than it is to get these simple positions like this. Just understanding the basic ideas of the simple positions, I would say, is more important than understanding all this theory. But when you get to play some theory, it is really fun. Like, there's probably one of the funnest openings of all time in the King's Gambit is it should be the it's the Kieseritzky Berlin. It's like H4 G4 knight here. No, the Berlin is this. Yeah, it's the long whip attack. Yeah, I've played this, and black is like you play H5 and you have all these holes on the king side, but it's super duper fun and it's super duper sharp, and it never happens online ever with me. I've only played it in an arranged game once, and somehow I lost when I had like 4 million different winning positions. This was like a year ago. I was pretty low rated, but yeah, King's Gambit, fun opening. Um, Definitely check in for tomorrow's King's Gambit video.